Welcome to a major championship edition of Your Best Bets. Second major is on the horizon. The PGA Championship this weekend, Southern Hills. I can't wait. The PGA is now, it's feeling more like a legitimate major, not like the fourth major of the year where it kind of took a back seat. It's got its own identity. I'd like to talk about that later on the show. But before we start, we have to introduce who we have on tonight. Johnny Strouser is back after a 2-week hiatus. Johnny, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to be here, and good to after some low profile events to get us back to a major here, and really excited to see the golf course and everything, and how the changes are, and see this field.
Yeah, we can rave about Gil Hanse a little bit tonight, really geek out on some golf course architecture. Zach Fitzgerald, of course. Zach, what's up, buddy?
Not much. Looking forward to the second major of the year. I think putting it between the Masters and the US Open is where it belongs, and
yes,
leaves it, like you said, from being left behind after the British. So glad to be here.
And rounding out the panel tonight, Scott Pieri. Scotty P, what's up, buddy? What's going on with you?
Hey guys, always fun to be a part of the show. This is maybe my third go around with you guys, maybe your fourth, something like that.
Fourth,
so
yeah.
First with Zach. I got to say, Zach's got his cat in the background just doing its thing back there. I'm waiting for it to maybe pounce on him. But anyways, it's great seeing everybody. Glad to be here.
Zach's cat is really a frequent visitor to the podcast, especially the videos on
chilling.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to open up with the Three Rivers Tour event from last week, the Blue Moon Open up at Garrett Country Club. Lance Hoke won the gross last week, I believe, with the 70. Is that correct, Zach? You were in the field.
That is.
Give us the lowdown on how that tournament played out, what the course played like. I know you played, you said it wasn't your best, but you did finish T6, very respectable. So tell us about how your day went and how the tournament went.
Tournament was at Garrett Country Club, which I think this is either the third or the fourth year that the tour's played there. It is the first year that it has not been sopping wet. So for me, I've always really enjoyed playing the course. I think as a kid, I'd played it a couple times, and then for the tour, been playing it the last 3 or 4 years, and I really like the layout. And me and numerous people were kind of talking about how excited we were to kind of play it a little bit more firm, a little bit faster, and it really kind of did live up to our how excited we were about it. For me, it was my first tournament of the year. Shot 76, and I was 5 over through the first 6, and then played pretty well the last 12. But I was rusty, haven't played any tournaments. I was just kind of happy to be out there on a day that it was 80. It wasn't terribly windy. The golf course was playing well. I played with Rory Ransberg and Chris Schweitzer, so the company was great. They hit some great shots. I think all in all, it was a success for the tour. And for the course, really finally getting to showcase itself a little bit in not completely wet conditions. First year, I think the ball has been played down. So really the first look at the real golf course, and I was quite pleased.
Before we went live, we were talking about the golf course. Johnny and I have not been up there to play it. Scott, you played up there?
I played it back when it was 9 holes. I don't believe I've ever played it since they've added the other 9, to be honest with you. But I have buddies that play there, and they always say the same thing, that the greens are fantastic. That's what I always hear about the place. So it was a great little 9-hole course. We played it in high school several times. But let's go. Here's our foursome right here. Let's go. Let's all of us go.
Ready.
I'll take John, and we'll play you guys.
I mean, how many
like fair teams?
How many
Listen,
strokes?
How many strokes? Well, I don't know. You guys figure it out. Whatever you want.
We need quite a few, I think. I mean, listen, there's a big gap between you three and me. So, I mean, let's be honest here.
I'll take Phil. Come on, Phil. We'll play these guys.
I also need to mention that Michael Goodrich won the net division as well. So Lance's first gross win on the tour, and Michael's first win as well. So congrats to both those guys. Zach, we were talking about We're talking about the Blue Moon though in Garrett, and I said it's the staple
Yeah.
of Garrett. And if anyone doesn't know about this little hole in the wall place in Garrett, you got to go there. If you're on the way up to like a lake up north, I mean, ice cream, just some great food. So shout out Blue Moon, maybe a future sponsor of the show. Who knows?
There you go.
Absolutely.
Zach has some previous obligation called going to bed and getting up for work. So he's going to exit stage left. So I'm going to dismiss Zach. We appreciate you coming and giving the report, and maybe we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I will be on next week, and enjoy the rest of the show. Scott, it was nice seeing you. Johnny, it was nice seeing you again. And Phil, it was always nice seeing you.
Always great to see you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Johnny and Scott's. The Byron Nelson the last weekend. I mean, KH Lee is now, he's like, I was looking at his record. I mean, we know he won this tournament last year, wins this one again. I think he only had one top 10 in between wins. His resume is kind of Cameron Champ like, Johnny, if you know what I mean, where, you kind of just have all these T45, make the cut, finish 55th, and then boom, you pop and win. Is familiarity at this golf course, I mean, not to just contend both years, but to win Birdie Fest like this 2 years in a row is almost as impressive as winning just kind of a grinded out tournament in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable that, he shot 25 under last year, and I think he shot 25 under this year. And to do it at the same golf course, but that's pretty good job security. You just find a couple golf courses that you play well, and you make the cut at some other ones just to earn some FedEx Cup points. But this is something here, and we've talked about this on the show quite a bit. Is guys who are familiar with golf courses, whether it's down to the amateur level all the way up to the PGA Tour level. Sometimes you just get out there, you just got good feels of what you see. The holes are routed the right way, the pins are usually in the spots that you like, and to be able to shoot the same score, when really these courses are so hard to win at because you've got to maintain pace by making birdies. I mean, that's unbelievable to me. I mean, that's really something on KH Lee there, and this field I think was probably a little bit better than last year's. With the star power that was at the top of the leaderboard there. So I was very impressed. And if he keeps just contending at this event, makes a few cuts here and there, he's gonna be one of those guys who's gonna have his card for a long time, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, he's snuck into the top 50 in the world now. Good golf swing. Seems like a good putter. It's kind of surprising his name hasn't shown up on more leaderboards. Scott, I'm interested from your perspective. Would you have rather played in a tournament where you knew there was going to be a bunch of birdies and you had to go real low, or more of a grinded out when par was a premium? What was your preference?
Well, I think I had more success as a player in those type of situations, especially as a pro where you have to fight for par and the scores were a little bit higher. I certainly have played okay in some of the birdie fests, but I'm probably more of a grinder. But I think what was incredible this last weekend was there were, I think there were 14 guys or 13 guys that were 20 under or better, or something crazy like that. There were 2,000 birdies in the golf tournament. I mean, it was insane. And I was bouncing back and forth between the Regions tradition. Sorry, I was watching the first major of the Champions Tour season, but I would say this about that golf course. I think the only way to shoot those numbers, obviously you got to make a lot of birdies, but the only way to ever really shoot those numbers is not make many bogeys. So that indicates to me around the greens, and then the greens themselves are fairly flat in tour terms, right? And they obviously the speed and the greens were in good shape, and they were making a lot of putts. So it's just when you see scores like that at a place, it's usually the greens are probably pretty easy to putt in around the greens. Guys are getting it up and down every time. I mean, you can't go shoot 25 under or 20 under and make 10 or 12 bogeys in a golf tournament, right? So yeah, it sure didn't look easy on TV, but it sure made it look easy when, in reality.
Yeah, they really did. And it was kind of funny because you had the 4 par 5s, you had a drivable par 4 on each side. Right. And I forget who it was on Twitter. Spieth missed an easy, or not an easy, but like a 7-footer for eagle on 12. And they were saying he won't have another makeable eagle look until the 14th hole. So it's tough to let that one slide by because
Right.
it was just playing like that.
Yeah.
It took me 5 minutes to kind of not go on full in on Spieth, but now it's time. Johnny, I mean, this is like, if he would have won, this would have been full on pandemonium coming off the RBC win. Winning at his hometown event, going to a place where he can or a tournament where he can complete the Grand Slam. He doesn't pull it off, but every indication is that he is really exactly where he needs to be headed into the PGA, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean his strokes gained tee to green is so good right now, which has always been the opposite of how he succeeded when he won those majors. Even he's hitting his irons really well. That new golf swing with that rehearsal that you're not a big fan of, but he actually gets the club in such a great position now, and where it's a lot more consistent. It's just hard to not love that. And all you need is a pretty good putting week, and it seems like when he's maybe a top 20 or top 15 or something like that, he's hit the ball among the best in the field, and then not had a good putting, which is, obviously, as we know, is very atypical of him. So it's really, really interesting to get excited about how he's going to perform this week, because the golf course, when we'll talk about it, will demand good iron play. And I've already bet him. I'm excited about the prospects here. I think he obviously makes the golf tournaments interesting, and when he's in contention in majors, he's so much fun to watch. Whether you get the highs and the lows, but I think his full game is starting to round into form, and I'm excited to see how he's going to perform this coming week here.
I'm looking at the stats, and I was trying to pull it up, but I think I saw it on Data Golf that this is the best 2 weeks of him driving the golf ball, going back to RBC and the Nelson, since he's had since 2017. So not only is he hitting his irons great, he's putting the ball in play. He's not hitting any of these foul balls that we've known Spieth to have here and there. Now it's like every tournament he has the obligatory 2.5 or 3 footer that he misses, like he did on 11, where he 3-putted from 7 feet, and it ends up kind of costing him a potential playoff. But that aside, Scott, I mean, you love where Spieth's at, love his form lately.
Yeah, I do, and I think his pre-shot's hideous too. I can't stand watching it.
Thank you.
It's not. I give him credit for sticking with it. I mean, he's stuck with this for a while, so, and it's starting to groove for him. But you know what, guys, I really like him right now. Obviously, he's easy to like, but I raised the question a number of years ago when I had my show that when he sort of dipped into his play where he was just playing okay, and then he was, I raised the question on my show was 2015, did he overachieve? Is that really him, or was it just like this, all the stars lined up and he had 2015 like almost no one had ever had, and will we ever see anything remotely like that? I feel like we could see him win 5 tournaments in the next 12 months. Or 6 tournaments, or a major in 3, or I feel that way. I mean, he looks awfully close to being really, really good again. And he's picked up length. They were talking about him. I think he's carrying the ball 8 to 10 yards farther. Everyone knocked him for his length. He had I was flipping back and forth, and I watched him in a tee shot. He had 181 mile an hour ball speed. I'm like, he's bombing it, and he's guys, I think he's possibly going to end up going on a run here. That's just my gut, my hunch.
Yeah, and to follow up on that, your comment about 2015, will he ever get to that level? I think his putting that year was out of this world,
Unbelievable.
15,
Best ever.
20 footers. Yeah. So, that might be the difference. And now it seems like when he doesn't win or he's struggling, it seems like the putter's holding him back. It's just the way golf goes, as you guys know, that, when one thing is excellent, the other thing falls off. But I think this is as close as he's been to the 2015, 2016, even 2017 years as we've seen. Even last year when he was so good in the spring, it kind of tailed off through the summer and the fall. He just looks. I feel confident when he's over an iron shot, he's going to hit it pin high, which he's been doing really since the RBC, and give himself 8 to 10 footers. And I trust him still with the putter, even if the stats don't always show it. Johnny, anything else from the Nelson besides KH Lee and Spieth for you?
Not really. I mean, it was, there was, I shouldn't say not really. I mean, there was some good players that I wanted to see kind of get into some form there. Hideki Matsuyama played really well, closed with a 62, and I think he made a bogey late there that was going to put him in close to contention there. 61 by Xander. I mean, we've always talked about him there. He was kind of not in contention. Well, he wasn't in contention at all, and was probably a couple hours ahead of the leaders there, and shot a really good score. So, it looks like these guys, there's some guys out here that are, somewhat rounding into form, which is always fun to see because it leads up to that anticipation of what could be this coming week.
I do have to shout out Xander. I mean, we give him a lot of flack. Johnny and I, we talk about him a lot, but he was 3 over with, I think, 12 or 13 holes to go Friday, and he ends up 23 under at the end of the tournament. I mean, that's an insane last 47 or 8 holes of golf. So good on him to grind it out and get a top 5 out of it. Scott, I'm interested where you're at with Justin Thomas. I mean, this is another tournament where he's right there. He's been right there for basically the last year of, several tournaments. And for whatever reason now, it used to be Justin Thomas figures out a way to win all these tournaments. Now it's like there's always something holding them back, and it's kind of flipped on him a little bit the last year.
Yeah, I think it happens to every good player at some point. If you play enough golf, you go through some highs and lows. I'm not that worried about him. He still looks like he's still striping it pretty good, and he's still playing well. Missed putt here, missed putt there, hit it left in the hazard. Have to drop it. It's just little things here and there with him. I'm not too worried about him. I think Schauffele is more a head scratcher between those two. I would have to agree with you guys on that one. I can't quite put my finger on him, where, I don't know. I mean, he's just played some weird tournaments, hasn't he? And then to turn around and do this, he's more of a head scratcher than Justin Thomas. I think Justin Thomas, as I think last time I was on the show, I think he's going to be mad enough at some point to start winning again. But you're right, he hasn't been able to finish the deal. But I think he'll get through this lull.
I just want him to contend in a major. I mean, that hasn't happened in so long. We kind of railed on him after the Masters when he showed up and shot 76 for the first round and really couldn't get out of that hole. Scotty Sheffler, top 20. I mean, the guy just continues to make a ton of birdies. I think he had exactly the week he needed to have this week just to kind of get his, scratch off the cobwebs a little bit heading into the PGA next week at a course where he's played a ton. He won an amateur event, I think in 2015 or 16, I saw.
Big 12 championship.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll talk about it when we talk about the odds and later on the show, but I have a hard time seeing Scotty Sheffler not contend at least top 10, top 20. It's kind of like the new Brooks Koepka if we talk about his record, and that's something I'll bring up later, but not too much from the Nelson. I don't love this tournament. I don't love this golf course, TPC Craig Ranch. It's just not something, just feels like it's missing. And I feel like we talked about this last year, so we don't have to go too in depth on this tournament, but I think it's, they got a good field this year, at least going in front of the PGA. Guys, live golf. I guess we can just go into Mickelson right now. So, I mean, it's disappointing that Phil's not going to be here this week. I mean, I was reading something today talking about just the fall from grace since this tournament last year, when on top of the sports world, not just golf, but the sports world, and to see where he is now. Really weird last Friday when the PGA of America releases the statement that he won't be playing, not even coming directly from him. I think this is a sign that we're not going to see him at the U.S. Open or the Open. What do you think, Scott?
I think that's an affirmative, Captain. I'm shocked. I'm just so shocked that he isn't defending, irregardless of what's going on at this point. This would have been the obvious jump back in point to me. Winning at 50 years old, the oldest ever, and what he did last year, and now this. So I'm more intrigued right now to see where this goes than I have through this whole thing. Where does it go from here? Now they got the article coming out talking about how much he lost gambling and that he was checking his phone during President's Cups and more interested in that than he was in playing. And oh my God, I mean, it's insane. I can't, it's hard to even fathom at this point.
Okay, Johnny, I'm gonna read off a list of Mickelson indiscretions just since he won the PGA, and then you can respond. And it's not just Live Golf. Okay. So he started with on Twitter. He argued about John Rahm's vaccination status around the Memorial last year. He attacked an investigative reporter from the Detroit News, your newspaper, Johnny, for writing a story about a bookie or how he had refused to pay Mickelson a $500,000 gambling debt. He suggested his excessive coffee drinking habit had protected him from catching COVID. He attacked the USGA, of course, because we know how he feels about the USGA for the rule changes, limiting the length of drivers to 46 inches. Criticized the PGA Tour policy's ban on the green rating books. Claimed that the PGA Tour was holding on to $10 to $20 billion of digital moments that the pros had created. That's probably my favorite. I like this one, though. He thanked Elon Musk on Twitter for grumbling about his $11 billion tax bill, because we know Mickelson hates taxes, maybe more than he hates the USGA. He mentioned herd immunity when it talked about the Omicron variants. He incorrectly announced that he won the PIP. Forgot about that one too. The Charlie Hoffman incident at the Waste Management. He mentioned that, and then all this was even prior to all the stuff coming out in the Shipnut book, which I have to get this week to read. Johnny, what in the world? This is insane for just one person, all this stuff in a 12-month span.
Yeah, this is a lot to unfold. And I did read that article after you recommended it to me. So I read all of those prior to you reading these off. And it's just like, yeah, that stuff has just been some recent, within the last couple of years here. And first of all, it's as a golf fan, it is heartbreaking that he didn't play in the Masters. And it's extremely sad that he's not here to be celebrated as the defending champion of this event. I mean, like him or dislike him, it stinks as a golf fan. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on in his life. I think that's always been the thing. And I think, you look the way he plays golf with that aggressive type way. I think that's how he lives his life. And that's how he's got a lot of these other things going on. Like, I know that the Shipnut book is going to be very, very good reading and very interesting, but I think he's got something worse here, is that Billy Walters book that's going to come out next year that he's going to write. And Billy Walters, from what I've read, is not a dude you mess with, and he messed with him, and he's going to out him in a lot of different ways, I think. And I think there's legitimate personal non-golf related concerns that he's got going on in his life, whether it's going to affect him, his family, his finances. I just think, and you just look at some of the comments. You remember it was before the Riviera tournament, Pat Perez was commenting, something's going on with him, I just hope he's okay, and all this kind of stuff. I think there's some things, and it's all going to kind of come to light, but that's just the type of guy that he is. He probably lives that type of life. And, they talked about him losing within a 4-year stretch, $40 million in gambling. He always wanted to be the smartest guy in the room, wanted to be the focus of attention. And, I think made a lot of bad decisions, a lot of good ones, but a lot of bad ones as well. And I think there's a lot of things going on there that we don't even know about that may never come to light, that they may come to light. But I mean, I think there's some serious things that are going to affect his life going forward. I think that's where this is going to start. And I think that's really his primary focus, I would think, at this moment. But I'm still saying he's going to appear at that first event in London in June. I just think this is what he's going to do. He's going to take the cash grab. He's going to, because he probably needs the money. And I'm interested to see, like, I feel bad that he's kind of going through this, but I believe most of it he brought it upon himself. So at some point, you got to be like, well, this is just it is what it is. So, but I think he's done, unfortunately, with PGA Tour events, with major championships. I think if he plays at all anymore, it's these live golf events, and that's about it.
I agree with everything you said. And it's such an unfortunate turn that we're not going to see him playing the Masters, the next 10 years. And, the U.S. Open, which he had a 5-year exemption for, or is it 10 years after winning the PGA? Either way, it's 5. Okay. So, the next 5 opens to see if, something miraculous could have happened where he got the Grand Slam. We're not going to see that. It appears at this point. It's an amazing turn of events, but I think you're right. I think the live golf, the Saudi thing is completely financial driven. If you now getting some more details about how much money he lost due to gambling, and it also was in conjunction with the downturn in his game where, less money was coming in, and, of course, sponsorship dollars were still rolling in for him. But if you think about his lifestyle and all the things you hear, it was probably hard to maintain that. So a lot of speculation, obviously, but Scott, I'm interested. Johnny and I have talked a lot about Greg Norman the last couple months. How just much of a cartoon character he has become. Do you think the Saudis are regretful of their decisions to make him the face of live golf?
Oh gosh,
he puts his foot in his mouth every other week now with something.
I don't know. I think I even said this when I was on last time we were talking about him. He's such an ego. He has such an ego. But I think, just really quickly, when you get just wrap up with Mickelson and what you guys are talking about, I think that's the word for Phil when it comes down to it, is just his ego is what led to all of this, And I've always heard that about him. That's always been the talk about him, and he's always seemed to kind of done something great and, kind of got through it, but I think it just caught up with him. I think they're probably the perfect match. It's probably Mickelson and Norman at this point. They probably belong together in this deal. And gosh, I don't know. He's such a big name in the world of golf and business. Who knows? I don't understand the whole what's going on behind the scenes. I just know they're going to play at some point. It's just going to be fascinating to see which card starts going. And, Fowler was not committing to the PGA Tour today. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but he was saying he hasn't made up his mind. And I guess I wasn't really thinking about him, but after I heard that, it makes sense. Where's he fallen to in the world ranking? He's still a big name, but how long will he be a big name if he keeps playing poorly? This may be his opportunity to go grab some money and solidify some dough for him over the next however many years. It would make sense. Maybe he might do it,
I'm glad you brought him up. I read that just a couple hours before we went live, and I was like, wow. But then I was like, okay, that it's these guys that maybe have a little bit of concern about their status on tour.
Right.
The Robert Garrigus of the world. We know,
right.
Sergio at the Wells Fargo commenting,
right.
About I won't have to deal with you guys anymore. Yeah, you just got to deal with those Saudis, the Saudis that make the rules that you want to play. And I guess Sergio would be the biggest name up until this point if Fowler would ever go. But there's going to be. The thing is we still don't know where this thing's being televised. Is this going to be like YouTube or, is it going to be streamed somewhere? I'm sure somewhere, it's going to get aired. Even if it is a total car crash, they have so much money that this thing is not, it's not close to the end. And, they can just keep throwing money at this and they can keep figuring out. And maybe at some point, there's going to be some higher echelon tour player that's going to see how much money they're making for 10th place and be like, you know what, and now with what the PGA Tour decided last week, I just think it's going to be, at some point it's going to get messy. This is going to go to, it's going to go to court at some point with someone arguing that what the PGA Tour is saying is not allowable by law. I don't want to get into the legalities of it, but the whole contractor working for themselves versus what the tour is saying they can and can't do. I don't know how that's all going to work out long term.
Can I say something about that real quick? Because you brought it up. Perfect. Keep in mind when you become a tour member, you pay dues to the tour. I mean, those guys are paying, I'm going to guess, $1,500 to $2,000 a year to the PGA Tour for their dues to be a part of that association, right? They're independent contractors. If they went to Q school at some point, they paid somewhere between $5,000 to $7,500 in entry fees and all their expenses. I think the tour is going to have a really tough time if there's an antitrust lawsuit brought against them, that you're going to dictate in an employer type fashion for people you forced to be independent contractors and pay you to be a part of your tour. I'm not an attorney. I'm not claiming to be. I just find that that's going to be a really tough argument to make. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't go that way, but I certainly wouldn't be happy if I was a part of that tour that you're dictating to me where I can and can't go. Now, I understand if they're playing at Pumpkin Ridge in Oregon and it's within the United States and there's a PGA Tour event. I get that. Okay. But if they're playing in London and it's the European tour or it's the, Asian tour or it's the Japanese tour and they're not, and you want to one-off somewhere, there should be no problem with that. I just don't understand why they're going that route. I think it's a mistake. Obviously there's a bunch of prominent guys on the tour that don't. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
I can't wait to see how it all plays out starting next month. Is there going to be a press conference? Is there going to be betting odds on these tournaments?
Right.
There's not a lot of answers, concrete answers to any of these questions yet. Transitioning, Johnny, Tiger, everything I saw today, he looks pretty good. I mean, at times walking gingerly, but out on the course, he looked pretty solid. Thoughts, hopes for Tiger this week?
Thoughts and hopes. Well, thoughts. I mean, he says that the leg feels better, and that it's just going to take time. It's going to take 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years for it to get to where it needs to be. So, I mean, that's good. That's improved. Yeah, it's only a month or something like that after the Masters. So, I mean, how much better did it get? But yeah, from the report on the ground was his swings there. I mean, his speeds are there. There's good golf shots being hit. It's just at this point, can he get those 72 holes in? And we saw at Augusta, he was wearing down, come the weekend, understandably, and it's just building the physical strength back up, but also the tournament experience, that the nerves, if you don't play, every so often, or you go long bouts with not playing, I mean, the nerves are something that you got to get used to. And that's what, when Tiger's had the back injuries and everything like that, he's come back to win. That's kind of been the last thing there, is to have pressure, have that feeling, and get back there. So the thought is that, he could make the cut, and just like he did at Augusta there, because there's a lot of comparisons to how this golf course is, to Augusta National. The hopes is that, he finishes in the top 20, top 30. I really don't have any expectations with him winning or being in the final couple of pairings, because I mean, this is a hard golf course and these fields are unbelievable. And this one is just stacked beyond all measure there. But, I think he's in the, stepping into the right place. He's moving, he's progressing, and it's just a process.
Scott, we didn't talk to you after the Masters, but I mean, what were your thoughts on what he did there? And, it's 4 or 5 weeks later, talking about a tournament that's going to be in the 80, 90 degrees. area where it should be better for his mobility. Maybe in months stronger with his leg. Are you on the optimistic camp or the pessimistic camp?
I'm on the optimistic side of things for sure. I thought everybody was a little bit getting carried away with, can he win the Masters? I think I said that when I was on the show. I thought making the cut was going to be a monumental feat, and I think it was. But I think all of us have been to Augusta. If I'm incorrect about that, sorry, but the walk at Augusta is brutal. I mean, brutal. For him to get through those 4 days, he can get through anything, really, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Hills is got some hills, that Oklahoma will surprise you with the terrain a little bit. But I like his chances better at Southern Hills than I did at Augusta, because it is a smallish green, very old school. Certainly experience really matters at this place. And I know it looks long on paper, and it is, but they won't go really super deep at Southern Hills, I don't think. I think that the rough and the smallish greens will protect that a little bit. So I think he'll get through the 4 days physically better myself, even though it's going to be hot. I think hot helps him with his back, and so I'm optimistic. I see him making the cut. He could maybe get inside the top 25. I could see that, but I think anything better than that is maybe a bit optimistic, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah. And I think people maybe underrated making the cut, how astounding that was at the Masters. I mean,
unbelievable
to do what he did there. I truly believe this is all a journey for him for St. Andrews in July. I mean, I really feel like, and I know, and I poo-pooed the whole Tiger comeback a little bit after the Masters, and that Twitter account, Freezing Cold Takes, Johnny, you're probably aware of it. I'll be on there saying, yeah, I don't know if I want to see old broken down Tiger, and then he'll win the Open in July, and then I'll look like an idiot. I still kind of feel that way, but then I see what I saw today, him swinging the golf club, and I really just feel like him at St. Andrews, where he won the Open in 2005, and just a course that he just knows so well and plays so well. I feel like this whole major season will lead to that for him, where I believe that he will believe he has a chance to win that tournament. So hopefully he keeps progressing, gets stronger over the next couple months, and we'll see what we got this weekend. Guys, thoughts on Southern Hills? We know Perry Maxwell designed, but it went through the restoration from Gil Hance, who's, this is kind of what he does. I mean, he's really known for these types of projects, and really put a nice redesign and also restoration, kind of a mold of both. I think in 2018 on this golf course. I believe it hadn't hosted a major since a PGA Tour major since 07 PGA. I know it hosted last year the Senior PGA. So thoughts on the golf course and what we might look for this week as far as what has changed from the last time we saw it. Scott, what are your thoughts on Southern Hills?
I have to be honest, I don't know the revamp very well, but I know that it's a golf course that's hosted, I think, somewhere around 15 or 16 major championships in the last 100 years. It's loved by the USGA, the PGA. I mean, there's not many of those courses out there, that they're in agreement on, right? It's tree lined, it's tight, it moves both ways, it goes up and down, and the greens, as I mentioned, are not the biggest, man. You drive the ball in the rough there, it's hard to hit the greens. So it's got some water, it's got creeks that run through that intersect holes and get across in front of greens. The bunkering around the greens from the Senior PGA last year looked very difficult, especially if you're driving in some of the fairway bunkers. So I'd look for a guy who's going to drive the ball straight, who's going to avoid, the loose shots. I don't think it's going to be a super low score. I just don't think they're going to get deeper than probably 12. I think double digits will look awfully good this week.
Johnny, from everything I read about the restoration that Gil Hance did, kind of really bringing out the features that Maxwell created way back when, hitting to specific small areas on the greens. Sounds like it's going to be key to the week. Very Augusta-like, really, in a way.
Yeah. One of the things that they really wanted to bring back was that, and when they built the golf course, they had these very subtle breaks that had eventually just kind of flattened out, just whether it was erosion or additional sand or just subtle changes to the golf course over the years there. But they've really restored it, from what I've read, to play more like that. So for me, I want to look at guys who hit their irons really, really well, because you've got to be able to control the spin and the distance, and you can't just fire at the center of these greens and expect to have birdie putts. So it'll be interesting to see. Yes, you do got to hit it in the fairway. The rough, from what I'm assuming as of right now, is not overly penal, but it is a major championship. But with the old school deep bunkering that they've changed, and the way the greens have been kind of restored to the the quadrants, or the whatever size are that they are on each green, you got to be able to kind of fit your ball into different areas there, and that's really gonna make the ball strikers here I think flourish.
The other thing I wanted to mention was part of his restoration was creating more of these runoffs around the greens rather than just thick rough, which I really like. I think it's more fun to watch as a viewer. I think it challenges the players to play a variety of game shots, around the green, rather than just kind of like the U.S. Open style, where you kind of just gotta hit out a thick rough and hit a flop shot and, man, hope for the best. I think it really challenges players to play a variety of shots. I think it's more entertaining to watch. So I'm kind of fascinated to see how that looks. I was reading Rory's quotes today. He says he thinks it's going to be better scoring than people think, because some of the restoration removes some trees. It's more open than it was in the past. So we'll see if Rory's right. It could just be a Rory thing where he talks about that and then he'll shoot 75 the first day and play himself out of it. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, because I really want Rory to contend, and it's just more fun when he's around, like we've talked about. So with that said about the golf course, with that in mind of kind of what kind of players to maybe target, I really think irons, like Johnny said, is paramount, but I really think you want a guy that can get up and down too. I mean, it sounds kind of dumb to say, but I think a lot of guys are going to miss their share of greens this week. So I want the guy that I trust, the Cameron Smiths. Scotty Sheffler, obviously, as of late, has been getting it up and down for 4 months. So those are the two things I'm really looking at. It's not going to hurt if you can hit it pretty deep off the tee, but there's only 2 par 5s. Both of those are playing over 640 yards, so it kind of makes them 3-shot par 5s anyways. So I'm looking for more accuracy and position off the tee, and then guys that can really do the damage with their irons. Let's talk about the odds. And Rahm is back to the favorite, coming off his last start winning in Mexico. There was nothing overly impressive about what he did, but the fact is that he just finally won a tournament again. I think really was a nice confidence booster for him coming into the PGA. So he's at plus 1,100, 11-1 on DraftKings. JT and Scotty Sheffler are at 12-1. Pat Cantley, Colin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy at 16-1. Spieth at 18-1. And then we got a slew of guys that are right there, just under 30-1. Victor Hovland, Dustin Johnson, Cam Smith, Hideki, Xander, and Shane Lowry. Scott, who's the guy in that bunch that you like, and what would be the reason why?
Well, it's certainly easy to jump on the Spieth bandwagon right now. I agree with everything you guys were saying about him, and I think he's going to have a good week. And what a cool week it would be to see him complete the career Grand Slam, especially with the low points that he hit for a while. I'm going to go with the world number one. I just listen. This last week he comes back from not playing. He shoots 19 under. I mean, where does that normally put you on the PGA Tour at 19 under? I think he goes away from last week going, I shot 19 under. I mean, I I hadn't played at all. I'm the number one player in the world now. I came off of, or had been, I came off of the win in the Masters. I think he's brimming with it this week. I think he's salivating about Southern Hills. It's a hard golf course. He has that beautiful little cut shot he hits off the tee. I love Scotty Sheffler this week.
Johnny, Scheffler at 12-1 plus 160 for a top 10. That's short odds on the top 10. But as I was saying earlier, I think it's hard not to see him finish in the top 10. The course just seems to fit him so well.
Well, you know how at the end of last year, after the U.S. Open, you could basically bet John Rahm and book a top 10 finish for him. I think we're at that point with Scotty Sheffler. I mean, it's just hard to see him not playing great. And just what Scott said, I mean, 19 under par, and probably was just a warm-up week for him. I highly doubt he was in full grind mode and just rolled out of bed and shot 19 under par there. So generally, I'm not a big fan of betting the guy to win 2 major championships here in the first 2 legs here, but I don't see why he couldn't do it. I think I'm going to have him on my card in some capacity. I might throw a little bit on a win bet. I did talk about Spieth earlier. I did bet Spieth, but I'm prepared to get hurt again. And I like Justin Thomas. Great short game. Top 3 iron player in the world. Good driver of the golf ball. I'm struggling here to convince myself of why I want to bet him, but no, I think his game fits, and he played good last week. He switched hosels on his putter, so slightly different putting arc in support here. I'm hoping the change will have a little bit more confidence over the ball, and he can get those putts that you need to make to win major championships. The ones that Scotty Sheffler is making, seemingly every single time he steps up to now. Is this going to be JT's week to do that? Don't love the number at 12-1. I can see why it is 12-1. So I'll probably shop around and find the best number there. And, we'll just have to bet JT and just live with the results.
I think I said after the Masters I was going to have to quit JT for a while until, and so I'm going to. I mean, in majors, I think I'm going to have to stick with that. He did putt better last week. He was 20th in putting last week at the Nelson, which is improvement. I want to go back to Scheffler real quick. He's got 8 major starts since 2019 as a pro, and he's finished in the top 27 of the 8. I mean, he's like the new Brooks Koepka. Now, is he going to reel off a bunch of wins like Brooks? I don't know. But his major record is incredibly impressive. And I think that means something when you talk about who's going to play well at majors. I mean, you look at these guys, it's a lot of the same guys. It's the Brooks, DJs, Spieth over the last few years, so I trust him to at least get himself into contention maybe on Saturday and see where we go from there. I keep coming back to this. Just feels like a Patrick Cantlay course to me. I feel like he's coming to that point where he's due for a major. He's 30 years old. He won the FedEx Cup last year. He's had a few wins. He's a grinder. He does everything pretty well. There's no true weaknesses in his game. Last fall he was unconscious with the putter. I mean, he's making everything. Now he's cooled off a little bit, but he had a really nice run out in California where he was hitting the ball good and he wasn't making anything. And so he's not been on the radar, I guess, the last month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but I kind of like his spot. I feel like he's lurking in the shadows, and I just feel like he's due for a star-making performance. So I like Cantlay. I keep coming back to him this week. I'm the guy that I can make a case for everyone. I'm like, oh my God, Colin Morikawa. Why wouldn't this course fit him well? I mean, he drives it in play and then he just stuffs it from 180. And when he makes his 8-footers, he wins or he finishes second or third. Rory at the same number at 16-1. Last time we saw him at Wells Fargo, he was in contention. Masters Sunday, he was right there. Can he get off to a good start? Scott, is there anyone else in there in that group of upper echelon guys that you're like, All right. I think I like where he's sitting as we talk here Monday night.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Cantlay. I mean, I love him every week. There's nothing about him I don't love when I watch him play. I have this feeling that in the next 30 to 60 days, DJ's gonna rear his ugly head again. I just have that feeling he is going to burst. The deal with him is he just sort of goes quiet for a while. Then all of a sudden he just kind of kicks the front door in and goes and wins 3 out of 7 events or something like that. I think that we're going to see that. I could see him maybe even at St. Andrews, to be honest with you, but I like him. Shane Lowry's been awfully good. I mean, you can make a case for all of them. I mean, you're right. You're right. I'm with you.
Lowry's been so good the last 2-3 months. It's almost hard that it's hard to believe he hasn't won as good as his numbers have been, his performances have been. Johnny, you and I were talking earlier today about Victor Hovland. I think we both really like him, like his ball striking ability, but man, he is terrifying around the greens. Like if there's a guy that of these top guys where I wouldn't trust him to get up and down on the 72nd hole, it'd probably be him.
Yeah, these bunkers are no joke, and the chipping areas and everything like that. I just don't think he's at the point where you can have any faith in him. I mean, he can make a whole bunch of birdies because greens are going to be rolling nice, and he putts the ball when he gets it going is so good at making birdies. But you're right, he's going to get those instances where he's going to miss the green. He's going to hit it in one of those bunkers, and he's not going to be able to get out of it. So he's a stay away for me as far as that. I do think he'll play. He'll probably play decent. I mean, one thing you've got to look at here is Tulsa is not too far from Stillwater, Oklahoma. So you got to look at the Oklahoma State connection here.
Home game.
These guys didn't really play the golf course at all, but they've got kind of that home cooking there, and he still lives in the area, so there could be some comfort level to being in Oklahoma there, but playing in the winds and whatnot. But I wouldn't want to bet him to win, just because, like I said, I don't feel good about him coming down the stretch if he misses a green at all.
There's a Patrick Reed joke in here, but the director of golf, the guy that walked with Tiger, he did say that the 2 most important things to winning this tournament would be iron play and short game, getting the ball up and down. If only the director of golf would have walked around with Patrick Reed, he'd be more suited to contend this week. I also like Hideki at 28-1. I'm really mad at myself because I saw him last night at 45-1, and I was like, oh, that's so low, and I didn't do anything, and it's been bet way down pretty quickly. Moving on to that next tier, Johnny and I's favorite guy, Will Zalatoris, headlines that next group at 35-1. Berger, Corey Connors, Brooks at 45-1. We'll talk about him. Joaquin Niemann, Fitzpatrick at 45. And then Sam Burns at 50, Billy Horschel at 50, Oosthuizen and Hatton at 60. Scott, I'm interested in your take on Zalatoris because Zach gives Johnny and I grief about we're just always on Zalatoris and we're always talking about him. We're always betting him. And I said, I guess you hate unbelievable ball strikers for then, because he's like, I just don't get it. I don't get your fascination. I said, this guy's going to be a star. Could this be the week where he just makes his first PGA Tour win a major?
I'm a little bit in Zach's camp when he first came out. Everybody was just going bonkers about him every single week that he was playing. I was kind of like, okay. But then the more I watched him and I saw kind of what they were talking about with the tracers on the golf balls and how just neutral his ball flight is and how good he is. I don't think he's been hitting it that well lately, though. He's had some kind of weird tracers, like not nearly as tight as what they were. So I'm not really on him. I'm not feeling him this week. And that, boy, that one's a tough one. There's some good ones in there. I don't know how Brooks wouldn't be a good pick at 45-1. I mean, he seems like the best in there to me. And if you piss him off enough, maybe he might just decide to go win a 5th major. I mean, or however many majors he's got. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up because I mean that's a basement level price for
big time.
The best major player of the last 5-6 years. Johnny, do you have any reservations about Brooks? I mean, I know he withdrew from the Nelson. I don't know what the reason was. Was there a knee thing or was it something else?
I heard, I was actually watching live from today, and I think they said it was just, there was no reason. It was just rest, didn't feel like playing in it. But
It's a
I
totally
don't,
Brooks thing to do, by the way.
Yeah,
yes,
it is. It is.
Brooks being Brooks there. I don't know though. I mean, I love the number at 45-1, but I mean, are we past Brooks, Koepka, consistently contending in major championships anymore? I mean, yeah, he hasn't been overly healthy, over the last couple of years here, but I don't know. I mean, his numbers, you look at any strokes gained numbers and they're garbage, but he puts results on the board, when it comes to these events. So I don't know if I'll bet him, but I wouldn't blame anybody for wanting to throw a little bit on 45-1. You could get a missed cut. You could get a top 5 finish. I mean, there's really no telling, and you can't bet him or judge him based on how he's trending, just because it's just like, who even knows there. So, I'm a little bit skeptical on him. I've faded him before and I have lost every single time that's happened. So I might just not do anything with him at all as far as that. But as for this group here, I mean, there's some pretty good names here. One of the golf course comparisons that I've seen here to Southern Hills is Shinnecock. So you can always look at guys who played well there in the US Open. So so that, I guess that does bring Brooks into it, but I don't love Matt Fitzpatrick to win, but
you're going to go there,
but he's been playing pretty good here lately, and he grinds it out on these really, really hard golf courses. And I don't know if he's ever going to win in the United States, but I think some of these guys who will end up winning these DP World Tour players, it'll end up being a major. And I just don't know if you're going to see a top level guy win, because with it being a 10 to 12 under winning score, you could get somebody a little bit down there. So I kind of like him for a top finish. Terrell Hatton, he played well at Shinnecock. He'll grind it out. There has been some life there in the last bunch of weeks here. He's played some better golf. If he can just with it being windy and everything, whether, you got to look at the patience and everything, but at plus 500 for a top 10, that's not too bad to me. And that's one of those things where he'll just kind of stick around and he could definitely finish the top 10.
I knew you were going to mention Fitzpatrick. That's like, I know. And I would, if you weren't going to, I was going to, because of two things. One, it's supposed to be windy later in the week. Things are going to play tough at some point. And I don't know what the finishing score is going to be, but Fitzpatrick always plays best when it's pars at a premium and things are a grind for whatever reason. And we saw it at the Arnold Palmer. We see it year after year at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. A couple weeks ago at Wells Fargo, he shows up. He just plays really well when it's extremely tough. Now, my theory on Matt Fitzpatrick is he's good enough to get you a T3 at difficult tournaments. He still doesn't win them, though. So I can't ever bet him to win a golf tournament, especially a major. But I see a scenario where he's around, this weekend. I want to like Daniel Berger this week. I think I'm interested in Daniel Berger as far as when, guys miss greens. I like him to get the ball up and down. I trust him to make putts. I don't know if I truly trust him to go out and beat this field this week. I might like him for a top 10 better than a win. And I'm with you guys on Brooks. There's so many different scenarios on the table of what could happen with him, but 45-1 it's an enticing number for sure. Going down the board, we don't traditionally, we go through kind of deep, but 65-1 and above guys. And we'll start with Tiger right there, 65-1. He's 6-1 for a top 10. I don't know if there's anyone that you've targeted, Johnny, throughout the rest of the board, but myself, I've already bet. I made one bet today, and I'll look at this close tomorrow, is Cameron Young at 80-1. This feels like a Cameron Young type of course. I trust Cameron Young because he hits the hell of the golf ball, and he hits a ton of greens, and he hits it close a lot. I don't know if it'll translate, but his upside is, I think, pretty enormous. Is there anyone you like going down the board?
Well, Cameron Young was the one guy I was going to pick out. I don't know if he'll win this, but he is really, really good. I think he's gonna. You just give him a couple more years of getting used to the PGA Tour life there, and I could see some good things here. As far as anybody else that I like, I don't think we're going to see anybody this far down the board win. I didn't mind a guy like Mav McNeely, who sits at 130-1 for a win. He's not going to win this event, but I love his game and love. I think he's going to make the cut and do pretty well there. So I'm going to have him in some capacity. Until Max Homa won this event, I was going to bet him to win, but I think it's just too close. But I'm gonna bet him probably in a top 20 bet this week, because I think he's gonna. I think we're seeing him, his ascension as being, a really good player here, and the next step is playing well in majors and then getting on that President's Cup team. So those are the kind of the two that I have looked at. I know I've talked about those guys many times before, but I just like their games and like them at this event and this golf course.
Anyone else for you, Scotty P?
I love Max Homa. I
Mhm.
love Max Homa. I would certainly consider, if I was a gambling man, as you guys are, I like him a lot. I would not be scared of him at all. I think for my off the table long shot, I think Sebastian Munoz has played really good for a long time, and he has been at the top of leaderboards a bunch over the last however many months. And I just think for just a flyer, I could see him playing good this week. I really could. He hits it a mile. He doesn't seem scared of the big moments. I know he hasn't won much, and he's learning, and he's a young guy. I just think I think this is a golf course he could be really good at.
Sebastian Munoz at 110-1. Listen, I love that's my range, Scott. So I'll listen to you. What about Tony Finau at 80-1? He won in August, and he just hasn't had the finishes. But if you look deeper into the stats, his ball striking isn't that much different. He's just been awful with the putter. But down in Mexico, he finished second to Rahm, and he hit the ball decently at Wells Fargo again. I'm kind of looking at Finau as maybe a potential long shot if he could just put halfway. Bent grass greens. He won last year in August on bent. I'm trying to find some correlation to support my argument, but I don't know. I kind of have a feeling Finau might be around as well. Anybody on Bryson at 100-1, or is just too many question marks with the wrist? And we don't even know if he's going to play for sure.
Yeah, if he plays, that hamate bone, is that takes a while for it to get. Once you have the surgery there, from what I'm told, is it takes a while for it to actually get fully healed. And as much torque as he puts in his golf swing, and much pressure he puts, because he probably broke the bone by swinging there. So, I just don't. I wouldn't trust him at all. First of all, to complete 72 holes and to win at that. But that's an unbelievable number just to see him at 100-1 on a board. It's just unbelievable, but I think that's very, very appropriately priced.
That's fair.
Phil, I would say this about Tony Finau, if I can.
Yes.
I dislike, just speaking from personal experience, I would rather putt it good and hit it like dirt. And I seem to be I think I can get it around because you're making every putt. It's the worst to hit it great and miss everything. And he feels like he's in that mode right now to me. I personally would stay away from Tony Finau until he proves that he's got his putting touch back, because 1 week is probably not going to he's probably fragile right now. Johnny, you know what I'm talking about. When the putter goes, you're just fragile, and he can. It's just risky, I think, with him. But I'd rather have somebody who's hitting it like Luke Donald and putting it like Luke Donald than hitting it like Tony Finau and putting it like him right now myself.
Scott, I pulled the tapes from last year's PGA preview show, and you and I were both on Finau. You were on for that one. So
I love the kid, man. I really do.
I'm trying to give him some positive synergy for the week because I really want Finau to kind of. I mean, that would be great to see him win a major.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the board. I'm kind of surprised, and Johnny, I'm interested in your take. Sepp Straka is 200 to 1. If there was a most improved player on the PGA Tour, which there's not, but if there was, I think it would be Sepp Straka this season. I'm kind of surprised, taken aback to see him at 200 to 1 win, and even for a top 10 at 16 to 1. I think I'm going to have to take some capacity of Sepp Straka, words that I never thought I'd have to say, but I'm saying. I mean, he's been really good this year.
Yeah, the disrespect for Sepp Straka from the books is.
I mean, he's
it's
behind,
legit though. He can win a golf tournament on a tough golf course.
No doubt.
I mean,
he's behind Matt Wolff in the odds. I mean, I love Matt Wolff, but I'm sorry, Matt Wolff is just
I mean,
hitting it off.
Just look at the guys ahead of him.
Yeah. So Sepp Straka, as someone weighed on the board, I think it merits some sort of attention. I really do. All right, guys, give me your win pick and give me my favorite major category, the guy that will not win. That's a top player.
Oh man,
Johnny.
All right, who's going to win this week is going to be Jordan Spieth to win the career Grand Slam.
Love it.
And the guy who's not going to win is Colin Morikawa.
Oh no, that backfired on me at the Open last year.
I know it did.
That did not go well. Scott, what about you?
And then the not win is coming from the top tier. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, you can't say like Mackenzie Hughes is not going to win. I mean, it's got to be like a top caliber guy.
Well, yeah. I like Scotty Sheffler, fellas. I'm riding that bandwagon right now. I just love what he's doing. I really like him. I would say who I'm probably not on this week is I still not feeling Jon Rahm right now. I mean I think he could certainly finish top 10, but I probably would be off of him to win this week.
I would agree with that. That's not gonna be my guy. My guy not to win is going to be Justin Thomas. I'm gonna stick it to him.
Oh, I'm betting him right now.
That's my traditionally my guy, but he will not win this week. And I alluded to it earlier. Patrick Cantlay is going to win his first major this week at Southern Hills, and I feel like it's going to be a reversal of the RBC when Spieth beat Cantlay in the playoff. I think Cantlay is going to outlast Spieth. I think Spieth will be there to the end though, but should be an awesome week. I can't wait to see it. Guys, thanks for breaking it down, for being here, Johnny and Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll put our best bets up for the PGA Championship on Wednesday this week, and we'll be back next week to break it all down and talk about what happened. So thanks again for listening to the podcast. Appreciate everyone's support, and we'll catch you next time.